round. Second round split. Go to the third round. John Jones takes over. A lead kick to Cormier's head, which is basically the equivalent of getting hit in the head with a baseball bat. Cormier stumbled to the ground in the octagon, and John Jones just went after him 5, 6, 7 punches. In my opinion, it's called the herd, obviously. It's my opinion. I thought the referee let it go too long, but I also understand there's a feeling in boxing and in the UFC that if you're a champion and to take away the belt from a champion, you have to take it away. So a referee goes into that situation, and Daniel Cormier's the champ, and you're not going to call it early. You'd rather call it a punch late than a punch early. So I understand that from a referee standpoint. Now, after the game, Cormier had been knocked down, and I mean brutalized. And Joe Rogan, who is a stand-up comedian, a very popular podcast, Fear Factor, really talented guy. He also is a ring announcer and does a bang. I don't know Joe, but does a bang up job for the sport. He got put into a very tough situation, and he's not a natural broadcaster, although he's a very good broadcaster. But he didn't go to school probably for that, like if somebody like I would do or Dan Patrick would do. And he got into a rough situation where Daniel Cormier may have been concussed. And here's the live interview with Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier.
Daniel, give us your thoughts right now.
I don't know, man. I thought the fight was going well. I don't even know what happened. It's like I got kicked in the head. Oh, man, I'm so disappointed.
I don't think it's a good idea to interview fighters after they've been knocked out, but I really wanted to give you a chance to express yourself. What can you say at all about this and the rivalry between you and John?
I don't know, man. I guess if you win both fights, there is no rivalry, so I don't know.
Thank you for everything, Daniel.
Okay, now, 5-10 minutes later, Joe Rogan was getting heat. He went on the broadcast post-game show and said this.
I hate interviewing fighters after they've been knocked out, but I felt like, I probably shouldn't have done it just now. But Daniel, I felt like needed his opportunity to express himself, but it's just not a smart move. It's just, I violated my own idea of, in the moment of interviewing a fighter after they've been knocked out.
I kind of agree with you. I think you should go with your gut, Joe. I think you understand this sport, and I think you understand what's going on. You handle the fight. It's just a tough scenario. I don't know. There's no right or wrong way to do that.
You know what? I have no problem with what Joe Rogan did because Daniel Cormier in that moment was newsworthy. He was newsworthy. He's also a broadcaster, the best broadcasting fighter. And it's tough, and I kind of cringe, but I know I've been on spots before, and I know news reporters are on spots, and they have to interview parents of kids that died 5 minutes earlier. And you walk up with that mic, and you say, I'm so sorry. And you let them authentically respond. And if they say, I don't want you here, you get out of there. If Cormier said, get out of here. But I'm going to support Joe Rogan. When the media is like the IRS, we're not built to be beloved and liked. We get into situations where we have to ask awful questions. And in that moment, Joe Rogan has done some MMA. He knows what he's doing. He understands much more than I do the sensibility of the sport. Cormier respects him. Cormier's newsworthy. Cormier is a broadcaster. And the other thing that Rogan did here that I respect, he told you going into the interview, I generally do not do this. He's giving you a heads up. I'm uncomfortable. Then do you notice what Joe Rogan did? He ended that puppy quickly. 1 minute, 10 seconds in, Joe Rogan's out. So this is tough. I've fortunately only been in this situation in 30 years, once or two times. I support him. And I know people didn't like it, and he got crushed on Twitter, and it's uncomfortable, and I get it. But one of the reasons I chose sports reporting over news reporting is because I knew news reporters that had to ask awful questions to parents of dying kids. You have to cover the news. It was newsworthy. It was newsworthy. And by the way, historically, Howard Cosell covered both fighters, winner and loser. There's never been a rule in boxing, you can't cover the losing fighter. Howard Cosell did both. Larry Merchant, by the way, has done both. Joe Rogan's a comedian. felt horrible about it, acknowledged he was uncomfortable, ended it quickly. But in my gut instincts there, if Joe Rogan's wrong, I'd be wrong because I felt Cormier was newsworthy in that moment.
So what a lot of people at home don't realize is that it is not Joe Rogan's decision whether or not he does that interview. There's a producer or a group of people who are saying, okay, get in the octagon, do this interview.
Yeah.
And Joe, in that split second, has to make the decision of whether to push back on his producers or go do what they're telling him to do, and the set of consequences that comes with that. So I think we can't blame it all on Joe Rogan, and he probably handled it the best way that he could while saying on the air, which is a risky move in itself, I don't like doing this, but I'm going to, which to me said,
he was sending a message.
Someone told him to do it, but he didn't want to. But what I had a bigger problem with was the fact that that fight wasn't stopped. Cormier was clearly unconscious, and there was like 5 punches to his head afterwards, and he didn't know what he was doing. And I disagree with you. I don't think that was newsworthy that we needed to get it right then. I thought we would get a better answer if you waited and did it in a press conference or later on when he had his head together. And even in news, as a journalist, you don't go up to someone who's concussed to talk to them.
Yeah.
You wait.
Well, Joe's not a doctor, though.
No, but I mean, clearly he was concussed. Anybody who was talking to him, he had no idea where he was. He was crying, and I saw so many people on social media, especially, just crushing Cormier for crying, which I thought was disgusting because we want our athletes to care about the sport that they compete in, and then they cry and they care about it, and then we're going to crush them for it. That makes no sense.
Yeah. Christine with the news.
No.